And so in life, when you go from $10.99 digging ditches and throwing trash to the CEO of a business, there are certain things that have to be different between me and the rest of everyone else. All right? And so let's start right here. Drop your excuses. Excuses mean nothing in life. In the real world, when you get out there and people ask you stuff and you go, but you don't understand, no one cares. And I'm just trying to be blunt with y'all. I'm just trying to be honest. I'm not trying to be forceful, not trying to be mean. I'm not mom and dad, so it's not about me cradling you. I'm just being blunt. In the real world, when you get out there, no one cares about your excuses. When it's between y'all two trying to get a job with me, and you come in and you straightforward, you got everything done, and you come in and go, but Faulk, I can't do this because of that. Who do you think's getting the job? Right? Because she done cast off the excuses. You came in with an excuse, and look, this is a hard speech when we're talking about 15, 16, 17-year-old kids. But there's a reality in life here. We all have excuses. We all have something that has weighed us down. We all have something that has made our life horrible. I grew up in poverty. My dad wasn't, my man wasn't in my life. He was in and out from time to time. He was a drug addict. I had cops kicking in my door, dragging daddy off to jail. He was an alcoholic, a drug addict, and he ran around with every woman he could find. He was a horrible father in that regard. I respected him. I called him dad until the day we put him inside the ground. My older brother and sister called him Russell because that was his name, because they had no respect for him. My dad would clown and joke about the fact that I probably had siblings in other states that we didn't know about. He was a clown. And we grew up in poverty, and we had nothing because he wanted to play. And so I have an excuse, right? Look, I come from projects in New Orleans. I had nothing. Didn't have a dad in my life. Another excuse. Grew up in poverty. Another excuse. Got a girl pregnant at 17 years old, fresh out of high school. Had my first child at 18 years old. We never heard the word college one day in our life growing up in my household. No one went to college. There was no expectation of college. Graduate high school, get married, have a family, do good things. That was the expectation in our world. I lived to those expectations. Got a girl pregnant, got married because that's the right thing to do, had a child, started a family. 2-3 years later, had Blake, had another child, continued the family, got a job to pay some bills, and to work my way to just making sure there's a paycheck to put food on the table. Because this is my personal belief, but the government doesn't owe me anything. You don't owe me anything. I'm a grown man. I'm gonna come up, I'm gonna raise up, even in the midst of nothing, I'm gonna do my best to make sure I provide for what I am. I'm not gonna be like my dad, right? I'm casting that off. I'm gonna be better than him. And I'm gonna step up better than him. And I'm gonna do better for my family than him. And I'm not gonna let them excuses weigh me down. And so we rocking and rolling, nothing big, just survival, getting through, food on the table, little apartment, right? Making moves, but nothing special. And then Hurricane Katrina came up. And it wiped out all of New Orleans. And so when I say wiped it all, I'm talking about a tidal wave comes through, and there's nothing that exists anymore. Childhood homes gone. I don't have a baby picture of Dalton or Blake that exists, because it's all gone. None of it did. So we come up here, we have some connections to up here, and so when I say I'm homeless, I don't want to stress something that's not true. But we lived out of our van for about 2 days trying to find a place to be, and whether we had some family up here, had some rental properties, we're going to move. I don't want to make it anything more than what it is. But I've been there, right? I've been at my lowest of lows. But I tell you what, I still had a family, right? I had my kids with me. I had my bride by my side. We got married early on. We had these dreams of growing old, sitting in a rocking chair, holding hands, watching the grandchildren play. And then a dude whispered in the ear. 3 months after being up here, losing everything, trying to settle it back up, get a job with the city, trying to make some ways. Some dude just say, hey, baby, I can treat you better. And then she up and gone too. And I ain't even trying to hurt on her. No big deal. She made a decision. Like, I'm telling you, right? Forget the excuses. They don't mean nothing. My dad wasn't in my life. I wasn't going to get a new one. But I was going to rise up from it. I was going to be better. I was going to make sure that I provided for my kids better than he provided for me. My woman left me. Life sucks. Life isn't fair. I could have sat in that misery and been nothing, or could have rose up from it. And so I've always been a workhorse. I've always been a guy of self-accountability. I've always been one of them people that said, this doesn't mean anything. We all have them. I promise you, if we went around a table and said, hey, tell me what's the worst thing that happened. Tell me every one of y'all could come up with something. Someone done something, someone said something, someone bullied you, someone hurt you. Maybe some of y'all have some real legitimate stuff. I've been a cop in here for 7.5 years before getting in this job. I've heard some stories that on the backside, I sit back and go, oh, that girl or boy's gonna have a hard time getting off from that one. That's rough. And I've been through a little bit, not hard stuff, but I've been through a little bit. And I've had to share stories with people, and I've had to listen to their stories and go, whew, that one's rough. Legitimately, man, I got y'all. I know y'all got issues. I'm telling you, you can either let those issues weigh you down, and you can stay where you are, or you can drop the excuses and stand up and fight. And that's the reality of the drop the excuses speech. You have to know that you are better than the excuses. The excuses are just a weight. It is something to weigh you down and hold you down, and you can't let it. They hurt, they suck, life isn't fair, I get it. Shake it off, get up. If you want to be great, any person in the world that has ever been great, they've always had something that was on them, trying to weigh them down, and they were able to shake it off. Or they was able to turn it into an anger and a drive and something that would motivate them every day to get up to make sure it doesn't happen to someone else or to make sure it doesn't hold them down. You have to drop your excuses if you want to be great. You have to be willing to push it off, look deep inside your heart and say, I'm bigger, I'm better, I'm stronger, and I'm worth more than them excuses. Don't let it weigh you down. Number 2, set a standard. When I came in and I'm throwing trash bags and digging ditches, the standard was pretty low. And everyone at that city had the same standard. Make a paycheck, take care of their family. I rose up above every one of them. Why do you think that's the difference? Why me? Why?
You set a higher standard.
Amen. Right? When we talk about set a standard, I'm going to talk to you in a second about a non-negotiable. But when I talk about a standard, let's just talk about darts, right? If I want to hit that bullseye, I got to work on the aim constantly. So when I'm talking about y'all setting a standard, I'm talking about set a standard, work on the aim every day. Whatever it is, work on it. The moment you hit it, set a new standard. You're always developing, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, about being a student of life, but you can never stop developing. The moment you stop and become stagnant, then other people rise above you. This is a competitive world, and no one is sitting back and waiting for you, brother. You either work harder than them and you take the position from them, or they're going to take it from you. That's just the reality of life. That is just truth laid out in front of you guys. But when you set a standard and you're willing to take the step, when people would talk about, right, it's 4:30, they don't pay me for that. Y'all see me, especially in this job, in this police world, out in the community, working 501Cs, doing events, being out there. I was, look, and I didn't even know I'd ever be the mayor. Wasn't even in my ambitions. I love being a cop. I love being in the school. I love being an SRO. I love being around y'all kids. I could have did this to the day I died. Someone gave me the opportunity of a lifetime, and there was a lifetime of an opportunity. I didn't know if I'd get it again, so I took it. I took a swing at it. Right? But I love being here. I love doing what I did. I was perfectly fine doing this for the next 10, 15, 20 years. I'm geeked. I love what I do now, but I'm telling you, I love being here. But the standard said we keep on moving, we keep on aiming, we keep on going. But I'm going to tell you, in a standard, you have to have a non-negotiable. You have to have a few non-negotiables. I told you about my daddy. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do drugs. And I ain't come here to be the guy that don't do drugs guy. You shouldn't be. You're too young to be making those decisions, and it's a dumb decision. But I digress. I'm just here to tell you, set a standard. I didn't have a daddy because he was too busy chasing women, chasing alcohol, and chasing drugs. My standard was going to be different. I want to be a good daddy. And to be a good daddy to my 4 kids, I had to have a standard better than my dad. Evidently, alcohol and drugs wasn't good for our family, right? Them dudes can't handle it. So I didn't want to be part of that. And I'll tell you, part of what we have experienced here in life, here's the reality of this. I've met with, not you, in fact, I'm trying to think, I don't think I've ever met with any of you guys, outside, like legitimate stuff, right? But I've met with a lot of people in that office. And it's so funny to me because I get it, right? Because y'all teenagers. So I constantly hear, but Faulk, what's wrong with it? And what's wrong with weed? What's wrong with alcohol? You don't realize what you're missing out. And, well, I get that from 30 and 40-year-old people. And what's wrong with it? Bro, when you're trying to be great, you don't ask what's wrong with it, you ask what's right with it. Right? When you want to be the best, when you want to own something, when you want to be the millionaire coming out of this area, when you want to run the business, forget digging a ditch. You want to dig a ditch? Do whatever you want to do. There's no standard. Right? You in the realm of not breaking the law, like, hey man, you want to do you. But if you want to be the best, you better set a standard. And whatever that non-negotiable is, you better have it. And so it doesn't matter who you around or who you with or what friends I keep. None of that matters. I have a non-negotiable that I'm going to be the best dad for Ella and them 3 boys that's already graduated that I could ever be. And I know part of being that means that I can't be out there whoring in the streets. I can't be out there chasing alcohol and drugs. I can't be addicted and jumping in and out of rehabs. Like, there was a standard there that had to be built. And you need a non-negotiable. And so, with your standard, I joked with some of my girls up here and said that we were going to talk a little bit about relationships. I'm talking about alcohol and drugs and all of that stuff, because I know it's something y'all deal with on a daily and or weekly basis, where eventually it's going to be put in front of you and you have to make a decision. And I'm going to tell you, your non-negotiable needs to be the relationships y'all in. Y'all need to figure that out. Y'all need to figure that out fast. Whether it's friendships, whether it's boyfriend-girlfriend relationships, who you're going to marry in life, those things should be non-negotiables. There's never anyone from the top down that you're going to hear. I don't care if it's the president, I don't care if it's the best athlete you know, the CEO of something. They'll all get to a spot, if you read their memoirs, if you hear them speak, eventually they're going to say, I had to separate myself from somebody. I had a friend that was clowning. He always had a gun. He always liked to be in fights. And he always wanted to do this. And you just have to know that if that's not the road I'm on, then I'm sorry, man. I like you. It'll be cordial. Hey, man, I'll give you the wave and the hi. And if you ever need something, like I may even write the check. But I can't clown like that. That's a non-negotiable. I'm on something that's way past being out in the clubs. I'm on something that's way past committing crime. I'm on something that's way past drugs on Friday night. I'm on something that's way past failing in class, right? I'm on a different trajectory. And a good way of saying it is, in the world, there's eagles and there's pigeons. And the eagles fly way high. In many cases, you don't even see them, they're so high up there. And them pigeons, if you go around them cities, they just kind of flock around the bottom. They bottom feeders, right? They pooping on everything. You'll never see an eagle hanging with a pigeon. Right? That's just truth. Right? They don't have relationships with each other. They don't stand for the same thing. One soars above everything else, and the other one clowning around the ground. And so, I'm not telling you what the standard is. I'm not telling you what your non-negotiable is. I'm just saying set a standard. And if you want to be different and you want to rise above, And you gotta have a standard, and you have to be willing, how bad it may sound, to just say, like, hey, I'm sorry, but I can't do that. I'm sorry, but Friday night I'm studying. Like, I'm sorry. No, man, cool. I ain't gonna stress you. You do you. But man, no, I'm not on that alcohol thing. Like, that's not me. I got a standard. I got a non-negotiable in my life. I want to be this, and this, and to get to that spot, I can't have that. And number 3, always be a student in the game of life. And so, Steph Curry has a great quote that says, "No one cares how many shots I hit in practice." And that's just the reality of life, right? I told you earlier, life isn't fair. I tell my kids this all the time. Life isn't fair, you create your own fair. The truth about where I came from the bottom up, the setting a standard comment, the dropping excuses, all those things, those are good additives, they're good details. But is it fair that you and I was both at the same level, but somehow you were there for 10 years before me, but I bounced over you and got a position that you've been waiting for? Just be honest, is that fair? No, it's not. It really isn't. Like, when we think about fairness, we think about the idea that I came in, I dedicated, I served, I was part of what you've done, but this dude been here for two years, and you springboard him above me? Like, you shaking your head, does that feel fair? It's not, but I'm telling you, life isn't fair. And so I tell my kids all the time, you create your own fair. And so you can be on one side of that fair pendulum or the other. You can be the guy that outworks. You can be the guy or the lady that sets the standard. You could be the female that rises above, but you could be the one that sits back and goes, well, I was here for 15 years, why are they not promoting me? And so you make your own fair, which I just mean that you drive your own vehicle, right? You set your own course. If you better than everyone, eventually you rise above everyone. And that's not me being boastful. I'm just saying that I took little things and slowly developed life and slowly got better at stuff. When I came here in 2006, I promise you I was an idiot. Like, that's poverty mindset, what I came here for. It took me losing everything for me to go, this ain't working for me. And so I can sit here in excuses, and I can stay in my filth, and I can stay at the bottom, or I can drop it, I can start setting standards, and I can start moving up the ranks. I was getting paid $10.99. You gotta pay daycare for 4 kids, and I gotta pay insurance. I was going negative every month. I was going to work to go negative every single month of my life. I was losing money. And so I had every reason. I could be sitting here telling you today about how everything went wrong and life wasn't fair and people walked away from me and they left me. And I don't even know why. I was just trying to do good, and I was trying to be a good dad, and I was trying to be a good husband. None of it mattered. And I don't mean like that. It matters to do good. I just mean, like, on the excuse end, it didn't matter. Like, people made decisions. Things happen. Life goes on. But I woke up one day and said, something's got to change. And so we started progressing, making steps. But it's not fair to everyone else. But I feel like it's fair to me because I was willing to work harder than you. And so you have to make the decision to go, yeah, but hold on, coach. I'm willing to work harder than that dude. And so it may take me 2 years to take his spot. But once again, like, you either working to take his spot or someone else is going to take his spot. And once you get to the top, I promise you, someone's looking to take your spot. Because Steph Curry said, no one cares how much I hit in practice. He can go 100% in practice. We are a results-orientated world. People love champions. They love the guy that hits the shot, right? The clock's going down, 3, 2, 1, hits, game winning, everyone celebrates. We love results as a nation. And it's not just in sports. It's not just in the corporate world. That's in everything in life. Like, school seems to be a little bit different because the dynamic's different, and we celebrate everything in school. But when you get out in the real world, they celebrate A's. Like, I'm just going to be blunt with y'all for a second. They celebrate top. Me, the people like me, the guys that skated through poverty mindset, lack of education, D's get degrees, it's better to cheat than repeat. Those slogans, we dig ditches for a living. That's just reality. And life isn't fair. And so if you're in that mode, you have to start thinking, what do I do now to change it? What do I do now to make the difference? And to always be a student, like today, right now, I'm still a student. I tell my kids all the time, they don't really listen, but I tell them all the time, like, you allow your strength to be shown while you develop your weaknesses in the darkness. I don't like to read. Like, I'm telling you, I came from a world where they didn't push education. In Louisiana, if it wasn't for Mississippi, thank God, we used to say, thank God for Mississippi, because they were the worst in education, they were worse in pay, we were second to the worst. But we would always go, yeah, but at least we're not Mississippi. Like that was the Louisiana slogan. At least we're not. Good enough, right? And so I came from that mindset, and it had to be changed. I didn't like, still to this day, I really don't like to read. But I know if I wanted to develop, what do you think I do now? Read. I don't do a whole lot of it, but I do it enough to develop. Finish a book, I'm not fast at them. But when I finish a book and I find something interesting that I like, I started with a Kobe book, Mr. Hub. I started with his Mamba mentality and just flipped through that, read through it, and then got into the 21, the irrevertible troops of leadership, and now I'm on Rich Dad, Poor Dad. You finish one, and you leisure, you pick up another one, and you try to figure out something new. You're always developing something new. Relationships. I'm a student of the game. My wife left me, right? I told you, I'm not here to make excuses. But a marriage is 50-50. She might have been the fruit on the tree that everyone sees. Well, she left, she must have did wrong, maybe this, maybe that. Like a marriage is 50-50. And so no matter what, I still have to look back at what I was doing in that relationship. And so, now I got a new wife, and she's special to me. And she's wonderful, great, man. I don't know how she puts up with me, but she's wonderful. But I'll tell you, like, I'm not just a student in the game of life. Like, I'm a student in the game of that relationship. Like, we're constantly developing, constantly moving. I'm constantly studying her, what's her needs, what's her wants, constantly developing that relationship. You're always a student in life. You're always trying to improve. You're always trying to develop. You're always trying to get better. And the moment we stop getting
Teachers and students, at this time, it's time to go to workshop 3, and grade students will go to the arena.